What is Vedic astrology?
Vedic astrology, that is Jyotish, is the science of light. It's an ancient system. It is used to understand what effects karma carries on human beings. And this system uses celestial bodies as indicators to read what has happened in the past and what we have been carrying in our karmic pipeline.
And why should people care? What's in it for us?
It can be one of the best tools of navigating clean decision making because the system is so specific that it leaves other generic system of guidance to of much less relevance, such as, for example, if somebody has in question, whether will I succeed in this particular examination and whether this particular field of career is good for me. The generic system of guidance can analyze a person's capacities and tell them, certain things are good for you and this and that. But in this case, using Jyotish, we can actually see in which time period, which are the factors which will support which type of fields in their career. So it's not generic at all. It's super specific for individual, and the advices will vary accordingly and significantly to each individual.
And how does it work? How is this possible?
It works on the premise that the moment of our birth is the seed which carries all the imprints of what we can await to see in future. It's like the snapshot of the sky that we have at the position of our birth will have planets and stars and certain celestial bodies at some places, which are basically the indicators that the system use to read the karma. So planets and all the stars are only indicators which will tell us what is coming in our karmic pipeline. They are not the cause of anything. The cause is only our own karma. So the system is not in disagreement with the concept of karma at all. It's not fatalistic. It's fully accountable, and it's that accountability which stretches to multiple lifetimes. So no one can blame planets for anything. They are just like Google Map. They're just telling you, if you go there, that will happen, and you will go there because you went there before.
So how can we benefit from this, from having this knowledge?
Having your chart read properly can provide you insights which are very specific to your life, and they will give you a quite realistic idea of what life holds for you. A good example would be, first, let's say if somebody is having a relationship desire and they're super focused on it, and we see in their chart that for the next 3 years or so, it's not a great time for relationship, then we can advise them accordingly to wait out a little bit. And if we see that the career has a good timeline for the next 3 years, we can advise them to focus on career and building a reputation for the upcoming 3 years and just wait out on the relationship part. And then after the time period is over, we can have them work towards relationship where they can expect good results at this time. So they won't be necessarily stressed out in a time period which doesn't support relationships naturally for them.
How can it be so accurate? How can you get so close to, knowing the time period and what's best?
Yeah. Here comes the tradition. Jyotish is a principle-driven discipline, which is very distinct from clairvoyant or psychic pursuits. So there are very solid principles and procedures to calculate and things of that nature. And if you're learning from a genuine, authentic tradition, then you'll know to read beyond the verses, because the verses are in a coded form. They're sutras. They're not necessarily self-explanatory. So we need a guru to guide us towards it. So if you have that blessing of the tradition and you practice enough, because it's a discipline that you can practice, I think apart from all of that, and if you have the grace coming, then you can get some really good insights, because the same combinations can lead to multiple results and so many factors play in. It's eventually grace which will tell you whether you got the right result for this particular individual you're reading for.
So can our karma really change then? Is it possible?
Well, that's the whole point. Imagine going to a doctor and he says, okay, you have this disease, goodbye. I mean, what's the point of visiting a doctor? You know you have a problem, you can experience that. But the only reason you go to a specialist is to get relief. Therefore, to coming to a Jyotishi, it is one of his major dharma and responsibility to provide relief, a medicine. That's why he's known as a Devya Chikitsaka, a divine doctor of karma, as we call it. So yes, definitely. And how can it change? It depends upon the intensity of the karma. Generally, we accept three kind of intensities. One is like very, very fixed karma called as drida. It's very hard to change. So that will require a lot of effort and so many things together. Then we have a karma which is very flexible, adhrida, which is very easy to change. And then we have medium intensity called drida adhrida, which requires significant effort to change, but it's possible to change. And given the intensity, we employ the remedial measures accordingly.
So what are the remedial measures, the remedies? Which do
Remedy is
you
basically an attempt to fix what we wronged, right? And it's essentially all our karma. Whatever problems we are having, we sowed it. We had it coming in one way or the other. So therefore, remedy is an attempt to kind of get a way out in order to not receive what we have sown, right? So how can it happen is there's a possibility of appeasing the same signification that we wronged. What do I mean by that? Example, somebody is having constant relationship problems. It is highly likely that they mistreated their partner in the last life or in the past, it could be any life. So now what we'll attempt to do is we'll make them contribute to a cause which will carry the same archetypical energy of the area that they hurt in the last life. So that is to say, a cause that would uplift women, and we will appease a deity such as Lakshmi, which is the embodiment of Shri, the feminine energy. And by doing that, we are essentially compensating of what went wrong here. And by doing all this, we are trying to make a dent in our mind that it will no longer lead us to the same direction where we did this karma in the first place. So it's like changing our gati, changing our future.
Do you mean the actions actually also change, like the behaviors of people?
Yeah, the core deep patterns will change.
Wow. And in what way? Like, what would you suggest to people to do that? What kind of remedy are they?
Yeah, so in our tradition, we focus heavily on mantras, very heavily.
Okay.
And mantra is made of man and tra. It's like it works on our manas. It works on our mind, which in return, when it gets properly activated, it works on our deep-rooted patterns, which change our core behaviors that led to the unpleasant results in the first place, that led us to do that karma, which would lead to such a result. So a mantra will act like a nail on our mind, and it will alter our mind to not think and approach things the way we do right now. Once that is done, and using the help of a higher facet of consciousness, such as a deity of that the mantra will be of, it will provide us extra strength that we may currently not have access to. And once we receive that, it's really altering how we approach and see things. Therefore, we no longer go to the same direction that led us the problem.
And how long does it take to see actual manifested results in the world, like different actions and behavior, and therefore different results?
Yeah, so the intensities we talked about just a minute ago depends upon that. If it is a very flexible karma, you can expect a change very quickly. If it is not, then you need to be patient and work with consistency and not get disappointed or not seeing immediate changes because the karma is very rigid.